This is Lada from astrolada.com. And today my guest is financial astrologer Sama. Hello, Sama.
Hello, Lada. Good to see you. I know you just got back off of a retreat. Jupiter's moved into Gemini, so there's a lot of shifts in energy. We just came off of an eclipse season. How are you doing? How are you doing with this
I
energy?
had a transform. These eclipses were happening in my sign, and it's
Mm,
something changed so much for me in a positive way. So
beautiful.
something that's always been there shifted and opened up. So very intense. It was very intense, but grateful for it.
That's beautiful. What was your favorite part about your retreat? Because I'm actually thinking about doing one in Florida, maybe before the second quarter of next year, before the big planets change. But I'm kind of undecided yet. Maybe you can talk me into it or out of it later. But how was your experience? I'm sure it
It
was beautiful.
it was most wonderful experience. The connections, the bonds, very personal, very intimate. Friends for life, probably. We all want to visit each other. And of course, a lot of crying, astrology stories, women together.
Well, maybe it's good I didn't go then, but I'm just
There
kidding.
was
I
there
wanted
was
to be there,
one
but
guy. There was one guy.
I can shed a tear or two. Why not? I wanted to be there, but I had to visit a mentor in London. But it actually helped some influence some of what I'll be talking about today. Last time I said the market would likely go up for the first few weeks in June and then likely run into issues around the 20th of June. This is around the time we're recording now, which is basically the time of this recording. So I have a couple of things to share with you guys because we have some really important aspects coming up that if we don't discover or share with the power of astrology, then like everyone else, we'll just kind of be subject to the whims and really surprised by some of these kind of intense aspects. So what we'll do is we'll dive into these together and discover and explore what might be coming up with markets as well as how might that affect things globally and what can we do to prepare, right? Because there are some aspects that will be impacting us on the individual level. And just like a weather report, it's useful to know these things so that we can adjust and make our plans accordingly. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and we will dive into the third quarter here. We go ahead and put this in full
What do
screen
you
mode.
think about quarters? Because in Europe we don't use this term. What is a quarter?
So a
Sorry.
quarter is basically 4 months. Okay.
Okay.
So that will be, no, 3 months. So that will be June and that would be July and that would be August for
Okay.
this part. Okay. So where are we now? So the last time we recorded, this is showing, right? Is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Last time we recorded, we met April 30th, and we talked about how the market would likely go up in May and also in the beginning of June, but that it would kind of run into some issues. And at the time of this recording, the S&P, which really covers the traditional stock market for America, is up right now at the time of this recording. So things are still doing quite well, but there are some aspects I want to look at because they really go into the solstice itself. And the solstice is going to give us information about how this quarter is going to play out, as well as the peak of the year. So when we take a look at that, some of the things that point out to us speak of some potential issues or concerns that I want to point out to you guys, but things are still generally what we would say to be the word is bullish, right? Things are still on the uptrend.
Would
See,
that maybe due to the Jupiter trine Pluto that is still kind of within our
correct. All right. So structurally, from a technical and financial perspective, we have been and still are in a bull market, which is an up market that's trending upwards until that structure is broken. That has to do with things called support and resistance, a relative strength index, and euro dollars and bonds, government debt, and a whole bunch of other things that have nothing to do with astrology. But when it comes to the energy behind that, at this point in time, as of May 23rd, which you could see here, like when we spoke, that was at the 30th, but as of May 23rd, Jupiter is in Gemini, which now is giving our economy. And the last time I talked about how it's very technologically based, it's based on a lot of tech stocks, right? That is giving our economy a lift. And so how does that work? Well, Jupiter is a gas giant, right? It's considered the planet of expansion. So the astrological sign of Gemini is what Jupiter has now moved into, okay? And so that is ruled by the planet Mercury, and that governs communication, logical thinking, the conscious mind. When we look at astrology, Gemini is associated with the element of air. There are 4 elements that make up our physical reality: air, water, earth, and fire. They exist in space. So the air element is going to be correlated to things that are transmitted through the air, more of the electric principle, which will govern things like intellect, communication, social connections. Gemini rules over the 3rd house in astrology, and that's connected to short distance travel, communication, siblings, local activity, okay? And that's going to extend to parts of the human body, considering the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the lungs, a lot to do with dexterity, right? The fingers and the respiratory system itself, okay? So with this air element, air is movable, it's changeable, and that's inherent to the sign of Gemini. And that can be perceived as trickery or duplicity or indecisiveness, okay? Comedians, singers, rappers, entertainment, media, all of this communication, all this stuff is air-based. And so are memes, okay? So Jupiter will expand all of this. And Gemini has a lot to do with quickness. It is the sign of mutability, so quick changes. And the Jupiter conjunction with Uranus speaks of quick volatile changes in markets as well. Uranus is rebellion, and Gemini, again, has to do with trading, exchanging information, and can be perceived as trickery because of the changeability there. So what might this look like? Right, we can see here, this is an example, by the way, of Jupiter's influence in the sign of Aquarius. Why do I mention Jupiter in Aquarius? Well, Jupiter in Aquarius, as you can see here in the charts and the movements up, when Jupiter entered the sign of Aquarius in December of 2020, the S&P, which represents the American stock market, went up. When Jupiter left, we went a little sideways, kind of up a little bit because we were still in a bull market. Jupiter re-enters Aquarius, market goes back up. Again, a lot of the companies that we see are technologically driven. So Jupiter, the gas giant, the planet of expansion in the sign of Aquarius, which is related to humans and markets and technology and innovation, we see how those companies did well. Zoom did amazing. We were all locked down. We had nowhere to go. Microsoft did well. Netflix did well. Apple did fantastic. You probably couldn't go to your grocery store. So if you were ordering off of Amazon, you can see why Amazon did fantastic as well. The tech companies did great. And so did memes. GameStop, that was a big thing. That was one of the first videos on my channel, actually. And we heard about a meme coin called Dogecoin as well, which was pretty interesting. And so what we'll see with Jupiter returning into an air sign, very likely, is the return of meme mania, returning again while Jupiter is in these signs. This is what Jupiter did for Bitcoin while it was in Aquarius. Again, December 19th it entered, and then it left in May. This was a 222% move in price.
Wow.
You know, Bitcoin is very correlated to technology, to Uranus, to this Aquarian element. So this is what Jupiter did. Jupiter leaves Aquarius, all right? Then it went into Pisces at this point. The price goes down. Jupiter re-enters Aquarius. We're up 100% again. So it should be very interesting to see what Jupiter does for these technological stocks while it's here until next June. right?
I think because also Gemini rules transactions, they might introduce something like to change the Swift system and so on.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They announced that they have this in the works. I think a couple of months ago, back in April during the eclipse, actually, the Swift banking system announced that in conjunction with like 40 of the largest central banks in the world, that they have a central bank digital currency that they would like to release in a year or two. And again, I've come on and I've shown maps of all the different countries working on this stuff. When Uranus moves into Gemini, I think we will quickly see a lot of these countries start to release them and implement them. And we'll just see a lot more people comfortable with using digital forms of money. So that change is definitely on the horizon. That's for sure.
Do you think when Saturn enters Taurus in 7 years or 6 years or something like that, they might ban normal cash?
That's an interesting question. They definitely have interest in banning normal cash, and we've already seen countries try to implement or do that this decade already. That definitely seems something more viable in the 2030s than it is now, particularly as it relates to the US dollar.
Yeah.
Other countries might try and, fail or even get away with it to some degree, but, a more sweeping, wave of that in the future could definitely be, the energy is more suitable for what you're saying with Saturn and Taurus.
Mm.
Yeah. So let's get the slides back up. Jupiter. Now this is where we have to remind you guys that none of this is financial advice. Okay. It is said that Jupiter has a correlation or rulership over dogs. Some astrological texts would actually say that Mars rules over dogs, but many actually point towards Jupiter having an effect over dogs. Again, we looked at what happened when Jupiter was in Aquarius, and one of the crypto stocks, air technology, that did very well was Dogecoin. Now, Jupiter, correlated to dogs, is now in another air sign related to markets and technology. So again, none of this is financial advice, but we might see some similar performance this year. It's always fun to come on here and say at least one thing that's extreme. So here we go again, but I would not be surprised if we saw $1 Dogecoin before Jupiter leaves the sign of Gemini. And again, this isn't financial advice, but even in my crypto altcoin report that I gave to my newsletter subscribers as a part of my own research, I even mentioned some meme coins because, again, memes are likely to be boosted up because Uranus has to do with rebellion. And the whole GameStop saga is about rebelling against Wall Street. And so retail, and there is this ethos or this thought or this narrative of bucking against the system through memes that is going to continue to come through the culture. It's already present, and the energy is now here for these things to be pushed up again.
Are you saying that there is a cryptocurrency based on memes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're going to see a lot of that, to where these coins and cryptocurrencies are based on politics, political figures, people who are famous, celebrities, just things that are happening in social media. And people will, Jupiter in Sagittarius has a thing where there is a correlation with gambling and liking to party, okay? So that energy of Jupiter is coming now into Gemini with markets. So even things like sports betting or just the energy of gambling in general, we're going to see an increase of that moving into financial markets. A lot of this also has to do with the fact that we live in a very inflationary environment, and people are feeling the need to make money to pay for life in ways that they didn't have to before. So these two energies kind of combine to make these things more appealing, because people are already upset with the system that's squeezing them. So if they start to see now meme coins that are doing well or outperforming some of these traditional companies or even governments, there's going to be young people or people who are going to gravitate towards that. And this is where we need to be careful, because Gemini is changeable. Uranus is erratic and volatile. So again, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling people to go buy these things and hold on to them, because that's a lot of what you'll hear is have diamond hands, hold on to these things. We're going to fight back against the system. These are very changeable, erratic energies. It's you're thinking this one day, you're thinking the next the other. So this is not the energy of institutional investors buying something for the long term. This is the energy of people who are looking
Gambling.
at things and yeah, they're gambling. Exactly. Perfect. That's the word. So be very careful, people, as you see these things going up and other people are starting to make money, or it might even seem like, one person's buying this fancy car because, they bet on this dog coin here or this cat coin there, and that's doing well. These things, as fast as it goes up, is as fast as it will come down. And it's not just going to be the memes. We're going to also see some of this in the traditional markets, in which, like I said, and we've shown, their markets are going up. They've gone up in May and June, but we're going to run into some issues as Saturn starts to now meet Jupiter later on in August and September, and they run into a square aspect, which will I'll actually break down for all of the 12 signs so that you guys know on a personal level what that experience will be. But in terms of markets, now let's take a look and talk about that. But I did want to talk about memes because it's something I get asked about a lot. What's happening with GameStop and all this stuff is the energy is here for that. And people will make money off of those things. And some of them will likely be dog coins. And we will see some of that. But do not be fooled into thinking that that is the way to make money forever. Or that even if you are getting into those things and you see your portfolio going up, you need to understand that this is very temporary. This is Gemini. This is quick energy. This is not steady Saturnian Capricorn. This is not, these are not government projects here. This is not bridges for the future or foundations or real estate here. These are memes. This is culture. This is fun. That's simplicity, it's trickery, it's quickness. And that
Make quick money for people as well, but if they're very flexible and react very quickly and are on the basically like day trading or something.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah. So if you see Elon promoting this coin again, now you know why. All right, so why did I have concerns about the end of June? Well, this is important. We have to step back and remember that a large chunk of the Americas got eclipsed early this April. I actually had a map of the eclipses, but that's not in the presentation here. But if you guys would actually be able to see it, you guys would see Mexico, which was directly a part of the eclipse, has had the bloodiest election that country has seen in a very, very long time. They have their candidate now, but a lot of people passed away in that process. Okay. The eclipse also passed through Canada and near New York and Washington, D.C. And you could even argue that the eclipse range effects may have extended into France, and their elections have been quite weird as well. America, as you know, has elections coming up as well. And we have to remember that the last time Uranus was in Taurus, from 1934 to 1942, we had Mussolini, Joseph Stalin, and Hitler. And now we have, who we have now, in a world where there's no fair elections to be found anywhere on this planet. Economic depression and dictators are like peanut butter and jelly. They just go together. And so elections and governments, they affect markets. So any scares related to these issues this year during this election cycle are very likely to be reflected in markets. So one of the things I talked about, I get asked a lot about, is gold and silver and the metals, right? So we may have seen the recent lows in gold, right? The last time I was on, I said, this might not be the best time to buy gold because 2 years ago, I said gold will be peaking in the second quarter of 2024. And that was with Jupiter and Taurus, the sign of an earth sign, okay? And currencies. So that was a 2-year prediction that we nailed down using financial astrology. You just don't see predictions that accurate made that far out on regular TV. At least I don't think so. I don't watch regular TV, so I could be wrong. But the point is, there's power in understanding these cycles. And like I warned about at the end of June, we may have seen recent highs in the stocks like the S&P and the NASDAQ, but the Dow Jones actually hasn't made highs. It didn't perform as well as those other two. Next week, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus will actually be leaving Gemini, and then they're going to be in the sign of Cancer, which is more cautious, more protective. And so as above, so below, how this might affect investors and markets, investors might probably be more emotional, which speaks to volatility. That's ups and downs. I feel good, I'm going to buy. I don't feel good, I'm going to sell, kind of stuff, right? Not based off more fundamental based things, okay? And so that shift in Cancer can be good for precious metals because silver is governed by the moon, and the moon is the ruling sign of Cancer. So that can be some of what we see. And this is also pointing to the nature of Gemini showing itself in markets where the S&P and the NASDAQ, which represent the American stock market, are doing well, but the Dow Jones Industrial Average didn't do as well. So that's Gemini in the sense that things are starting to diverge and not as correlated as they used to be during the Pluto and Capricorn era. We have central banks lowering their interest rates, but it seems like I'm the only analyst who keeps saying it, that the United States has not lowered their rates yet, and they probably will not. There are astrological things showing me that they will likely raise them next year. So it's not an easy stance for me to hold or predictions to make when everyone's waiting for the US to cut rates, but this is just what the charts are telling me. And from the Gemini perspective, this is that changeability. We don't see things moving together in unison. We see duplicity, different ideas, different opinions. Some central banks want to lower rates, but the United States is not. They're bickering a bit, and that is added by the North Node in Aries, which rules independence. So some markets will be up, some will be down, and then we have Uranus making these movements explosive, quick, and erratic. So that's the market, and it's not an easy market.
Yeah, when you said Uranus making it explosive, that's because Uranus is in Taurus, or when
Yes. Yeah. Just really being disruptive to what we consider stable, which is finances, right? Finances, food, the land itself. We were seeing that also with earthquakes and borders as well. So Uranus will make things related to those things in the place of Earth, Taurus. It will destabilize them when it goes into aspect, as you know, right? So that is only adding to the fact that the position or prices we see in markets or way we think markets will be going, they're not going to remain that way for very long. People will change their minds about how they're viewing things, and so will the prices change as well. Okay. So looking at this chart here, the moon is in Sag, the sun is about to enter solstice in the sign of Cancer, with both Mercury and Venus, which can be nice. Those aren't bad. So this is telling us that when solstice occurs, we want to get off to a good start. However, this chart is a Scorpio rising, which means that the path that this chart is headed is largely determined by the planet that is in charge of the sign of Scorpio, and that would be Mars. Mars, unfortunately, in this chart is opposing the ascendant, and Mars has the worst dignity and strength of any planet in this chart. Right. So with that, Mars opposing the ascendant is also the strongest aspect in this chart. So whatever goodness there might be in this chart, it's all going to fall short of the ruling planet not being able to do what it wants to do, and also opposing the intention of the chart. So this is the chart for Wall Street. And so that can tell us, while American companies want to get off to a great third quarter, and they will probably start that way, which they have, the end results, we need to see what's going on with Mars, and there's weakness here. And so the Wall Street, or American companies' own country, America, might have issues with its ability to actually execute its goals. So that's some of what the economy is dealing with from a high level. Now, in terms of the end results of all of this, Mars in Taurus means that Mars is in an area of the sky governed by Venus. So we need to see what's going on with Venus. Venus is in good shape here with Cancer, which is okay. And Cancer is ruled by the moon, which you already know in Sagittarius, like I said, is okay in this chart as well. So it's not all doom and gloom. There just will be issues. That's why I said it's a mixed bag of a chart here. Here's another twist, though. Uranus is conjunct a fixed star, Algol. Right? Which you've spoken about many times. You know all about it. You know, the Vedic interpretation, they call it kritika. And it has to do with sharpness, right? And so that could speak of technologic revolutions, Uranus, related to cooking, surgery, or sharp things. Honestly, there's with Mars in opposition and even some other asteroids that I don't have pulled up here, and also with the North Node in Aries, the South Node in Libra, the concern is, are we pushing more towards the war drums? That's really the concern here and how that's going to affect markets. Okay. So we've started off strong with the third quarter, but these are Mars issues. The end results are determined by Mars. So we have issues of desires on the personal level, and the mundane stuff tends to manifest how it manifests. It's not always great. You know, Mars can relate to issues of war. All while the South Node, which is a spiritual point of dissolvement, is in the sign of relationships and partnerships or contracts. So hopefully you guys are seeing the power of what financial astrology can reveal in terms of timing and in terms of what's happening in the world so that we can protect our loved ones, ourselves, our money, our sanity. You know, so what are those issues, I bet you're wondering, and more specifically, when, right? Remember, we're still in a bull market, but Uranus rules volatility. So these markets will scare people. These world events will scare people, and they won't always make sense. Even with that being the case, we need to fall back on fundamentals and understand there's still more confidence, even though we are escalating towards a war we are already in. There's still more confidence in American businesses than in governments or banks throughout the world, so that is where money is going to go. All right, so unless that changes, as scary as things might be, as much as markets might jump up or down, that is still underneath what's happening here, okay? And so if you see, or if it seems like I have a certain level of confidence or in my predictions or something, it's because there's an understanding of the larger trends, and those hold steady as the lighter trends on the top tend to scare people or, you know, move us emotionally. All right. So speaking of banks and stability, continue to cash out and get your money out of there before the first quarter of 2025. I've talked about this in other videos. Make sure you know how much money your bank can insure. In America, it's $250K for savings accounts generally, but you need to check. Not every bank is, promising that. It's different in every country. Make sure you know how much they can insure and that you consider some hard cash US dollars, because the US dollar will be the last dollar to fall during this descent into this new version of communism for a while. And so hard cash US dollars, real estate if you can afford it, gold and silver coins, not just stocks or crypto. You can hold those too. If you want to know what of those options naturally work best for your chart and your energy during this time period, just take a look at my calendar availability and we can discuss that and other questions you guys might have during a unique session. But just high level, those are the areas you want to diversify between, okay? So again, this June 20th chart is just half the story. Remember, this talks a bit about solstice and what's going to come after that. So the question then becomes, now that we have this hint, now that we have this secret foreshadowing insight, what aspects should we look out for then and when? So after exploring the US natal chart, some of the key things that I discovered I wanted to share with you is that we have a Mars-Saturn square that's coming up. And that's going to be in the 6th house, right? So that's going to cover the United States in terms of work and health and the military, all right? And so from that perspective, that can indicate tensions and conflicts related to our military, right? That can even point out issues in different health sectors, potential for weather issues as well. That could be a thing. And in terms of odd hurricane seasons, that could even be related to the Mars-Jupiter conjunction that comes up on the 17th of August. Okay. Now, this square can bring challenges, going back to the Mars-Saturn square in the 6th, it can bring challenges and obstructions and potentially even aggressive kinds of confrontations that could affect the American nation as well. So that's
When
something
is
to
the
look out
square?
for.
Where is the square Mars Saturn?
So it's going to be in the 6th house of the United States. And
No, no. Sorry, I meant when. When?
so July 15th is when that aspect will occur. Yeah, so sudden, unexpected different events can take place because of the aspect from Uranus. You know, Uranus is shocking things. We've seen
Oh,
building collapses. We've
you're
seen,
talking now about Mars conjunct Uranus. Yes?
yes, yeah,
Because you're talking about Mars square Saturn.
right, yeah. So
Yes.
that's more of the workforce, the 6th house stuff, you know,
But
but
that happens in August.
yes, yeah, sorry, yes,
Going
that's in
back to
August. That's in August, yeah. The Mars-Uranus conjunction is on July 15th, yeah. And that is where we can see sudden expected shifts, right? Or also, too, both of these planets, both Mars and Uranus, have correlations to affecting the weather. So this could be where we see some unexpected weather events, potentially earthquakes, potentially tornadoes, potentially things affecting borders or countries in that way as well. So that's something we want to be careful about. That can also have an effect on markets for sure. All right. Now, the US chart, one of the techniques astrologers use is called progressions. When we look at the United States charts from the progress chart, there is a progress Saturn square transit to Pluto. That talks about deep structural changes within the country. For those of you who know, the United States had a Pluto return in 2022, which means the identity of the country and what the country is transforming. It's changing. It's began a new 250-year cycle. So the old America is gone and a new America is being rebuilt during this decade. And from the progress chart, we're seeing added significators that point to this story. There's hidden threats happening to the country. And there's deep structural changes occurring because of those threats. There's also a progress Jupiter conjunct the natal sun in the 8th house of America's chart, which speaks to potential financial and resource issues. That points towards the debt problems in the 6th house of America and the Treasury. So what's going on, for those who don't know, is a lot of what gets put on the news or the media is look at the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell and interest rates in the economy. What's really going on that we don't look at as much is from the war perspective and all the money that's being spent there, where does that money come from? Right? That's related to treasuries and government bonds. And so that system in which the United States government pulls money from at will to give to a Ukraine or to spend on this war or that war without anyone's permission or agreement or care, it is that mechanism or system throughout this decade that is going to come under question and be put under pressure. Because it doesn't matter how much you lower interest rates or how much Americans stop spending if you're still tapping into that system, spending on as many wars as you want. You can't do that indefinitely, right? So the progress chart is speaking to these problems, and this aspect of the progress Jupiter conjunct the natal sun in the 8th could shine a light on these issues around this September, to where people now start talking about the Treasury and Janet Yellen and all that stuff in terms of where is all this war money coming from and can we deal with that? So that could affect markets as well. So that's something to look out for this September in terms of public narratives as well.
Also, a lot of hidden things coming to the surface.
A lot of hidden things coming to the surface. That's right. Jupiter brings wisdom and wants to bring truth and expand things. And the sun also has that correlation as well. in terms of purity and shining a light on things. So these two planets coming together in the hidden eighth house of America, some secrets will come out, and it'll be interesting to see and hear what they are and how they affect markets. You know, one concern I do have is, there's other natal and progressed planets interacting that point towards social unrest and warlike tendencies, but I've been talking about that for years now, so you guys get the point there. Right. And then we have Uranus coexisting with Mars in the sixth house of the United States chart. So
as a transit?
Yeah, as a transit. And so that can bring revolution to how we work. That can bring revolution or unexpected accidents. That could change health sectors, military operations, how Americans work. So one of the things that they talk about a lot in terms of how they're going to make rate decisions is jobs in the workforce and unemployment. So Uranus conjoining Mars could finally disrupt some of that to where things do change. Maybe there is a rate change, or maybe there are change and shifts in narratives when Uranus conjoins Mars in the sixth, to where they change their view on how the economy is going, because those numbers have looked good, so to speak, for Biden's tenure in office, even when it was obvious when we were in a recession in 2022. They said we weren't because stuff of the workforce, blah, 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 blah. American economy is still strong. So it could be that Uranus conjoining Mars in the sixth house of the United States disrupts this narrative, and that could have a downward effect on markets towards the end of August or in September as well. So that's yet
some
another.
military, because you said it's also the army, the sixth house.
Yes, military could be as well. Yeah. There are things pointing out that there could be concerns with protection of borders and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think America is going to get dragged into war this year. I do think we will, but the history. If you look at World War II, it was one of all these wars. It's some flag event where there's an attack, and then that's how we get pulled in. So hopefully that's not what we're seeing this September. But this could also indicate too, because there's a progressed Saturn in the 12th house. That's going to square transit Pluto. That's going to highlight hidden enemies and deep changes as well. So that could point to power struggles and potential hidden threats. So it could be more of an under the surface thing more than it is like a Pearl Harbor type of thing. It could be, but like we indicated with Jupiter and the Sun in the eighth, this could also indicate with this aspect as well that some of these operations that are happening underneath the surface now come to the surface. And we go, wait a minute, there's a conspiracy to do this or attack this person or that. So some of that could come to light, right? And even just, this progressed Jupiter conjunct the natal Sun too, finance, debt, shared resources, these are all eighth house things. So this square to the natal Saturn in the United States chart and the progressed Mars in Libra, that also adds to social unrest and conflicts as well. So there's a lot that's pointing to people being unhappy that we need to look out for here, whether this is via tensions in the workforce or the military is very likely for the US with this, disruptions to technology. We can see economic and financial strain here, maybe threats to homeland security, social unrest, which I've talked about. The hidden threats and the power struggles will be interesting. Do we see those brought to light, or are we still dealing with those underneath the surface? What do we find out who are running some of these operations during September? That could be interesting. Are there some rebellious actions from some of these people? Are America's allies starting to turn on them more publicly? And then how does that affect America's standing in the view of, this dominant superpower after whatever happens in September? So heightened tensions, we've seen them in other countries during their election cycles. It's just kind of been, Trump's guilty kind of a thing we're seeing now, but we're seeing a ramp up now to where the eclipse is going to we're going to see America's turn in terms of how our volatility gets impacted. So these are things to be cautious out from an investment perspective and from your own personal life health perspective as these developments occur. Again, there's that Uranus-Mars opposition July 15th, but then when we get into the end of August and September, a lot of these aspects really kick up more from the progressed chart perspective. All right. Now remember, before these aspects hit, Jupiter has the ability to boost markets and all things Geminian in our lives. So your portfolio is likely to go up, and things related to your local, social, and mental environment are likely to expand and potentially improve as well, depending on the condition of Mercury in your chart, stuff like that. So you want to focus on these things while you can. While Jupiter is still a little free from Saturn, and before they make that 90-degree angle known as a square aspect, and that puts a bit of a pause on that area of your life. And just in case you're wondering what that might look like in your life, let's break that down by all 12 signs. So I'll go ahead.
That's around August is the first Jupiter-Saturn square.
Yes, August 19th is the date there. So remember now with that, it might be tempting, to think, oh, Saturn's going to ruin my fun. I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do or anything like that, And there's some truth to that, but what I would encourage you to think is, how can I pause and stop and allow this break that Saturn is putting on me to reflect and see, where can I shore up these foundations or make them stronger? How about I reflect on the progress I've made with Jupiter, and how can I stabilize this so that this progress can really serve me for the long term? Okay. So with Aries, we're going to start off with Aries. And this Saturn square will occur on the 19th of August. Okay. So Saturn is positioned in your 12th house, and Jupiter occupies your 3rd house. If you're in Aries, you might be experiencing a bit of a slowdown, a bit of a drag due to Saturn's transit through the 12th house. This can be affecting your sleep. It can be making rest difficult, and Saturn is kind of engaging you or compelling you to get out into the world more, whether that's for adulting purposes, government is asking you to do stuff, your boss, or just your duties as an adult or human being. This could be affecting your ability to rest. It could be parents, it could be end of life care. If you're older, it could be related to relatives or retirement, or even things like end of life care. The tension of the square can even push you into important conversations, 3rd house, which could add to your ability not to be able to rest, 12th house. Jupiter in the 3rd might want you to be spending more time involved in your community or with your siblings rather than sleeping or relaxing. And so maybe you're doing neighborhood watch. Maybe you have concerns about things going on in the neighborhood. Maybe you just want to spend more time with your siblings. Maybe you just want to be more responsible in your community. And although Jupiter typically promotes social activities and learning opportunities, Saturn's influence might be bringing you the exact opposite, to where you want to do those things, but maybe you feel restricted, right? Or maybe there's blockages in your ability to do that in the community. And so maybe your car's broken down, or there's blockages to travel, right? Maybe you want to fly and see someone within the States, or your car's broken down, right? Overall, there's restrictions imposed by Saturn on sleep and communication. However, there's opportunities for growth and community building if you can slow down and focus on what it is that you can do to stabilize what you've grown in that area since May. Now for Taurus, the Jupiter-Saturn square begins with Jupiter in your 2nd house and Saturn in your 11th. And what this means for you is that you should be cautious about lending money to friends, as this might take longer to recover. This period might also be ideal for reassessing your social circle, eliminating those who are draining resources and energy that aren't serving you. There might be things from friends or your social circle draining your resources and energy that you want, right? But you might need to put the brakes on that so that you can recuperate and recover, or revisit how much of that you're giving. Is that imbalance? Saturn in the 11th also points to often a constraint in social connections, instead focusing on relationships that are serious. They serve a purpose, such as work or networking or some long-term agreement or some foundational purpose in your life. not something frivolous. And this can be very financially beneficial, especially with Jupiter in the second house, because there can be a synergy between income growth in the second and strategic social interactions that are important and serious in the 11th. You can find that your social plans might actually be clashing with your financial goals with this square. Right? Maybe your friends are like, let's go travel here, or let's go to Dubai, let's do this, let's do that. And you're like, I'm spending too much partying or hanging out with you guys. I need to build my career. I need to think about the long term. Saturn, I need to think about my foundations. If you're building a business, this can be very fruitful for you. Taurus, if you are looking at business, the 11th house represents profits from career, from the 10th house, from your legacy and what you're meant to be known for in the world. 10th house being the largest visible house. The 11th is the extension or payments or rewards or recognition from that. So hard work and smart financial management can yield positive results while this transit is occurring. So Jupiter in the second house can unfortunately cause overspending, so you do want to watch for that. Although gains are expected, they might not be as large as anticipated, or the overspending might overall leave you in a net position of not being as fruitful or as positive as you might think. So that's something to look out for there. Gemini. If you have a Gemini sun, moon, or rising sign, this is a significant astrological period for you, with Saturn in your 10th transiting your sign, and then Jupiter transiting your sign. Normally, when Jupiter enters your sign, it's a time of ease and prosperity and abundant opportunities, and everything tends to fall into place, creating a period of expansion and uplifting kind of experiences that get brought to you. But with Saturn's presence in the 10th squaring that, that's a little twist to that, in the sense that there's demands for diligence, responsibility, and hard work that get blended into the mix. And what that will signify in your 10th house is a heavy focus on career, public standing, and responsibilities to those in authority, or becoming an authority yourself. So while Jupiter in your sign is eager to explore and expand and embrace new adventures, Saturn is saying, we need structure and you need to focus on your duties. And so this combination is a push and pull between wanting to go out there and either travel locally or talk more or chat more or socialize and put yourself out there, versus getting serious about the necessity of practical everyday responsibilities. And so this can feel like complications that are stalling your dreams, particularly related to career or interacting with authority figures, whether it's your boss is wanting more work from you, or you were promised a promotion and now there's a delay, or you're waiting to hear back from people to get the job, or it's 2 jobs, or the resumes are out there and it seems like no one's responding. This is the effect of Saturn bringing delays or additional challenges at work that necessitate that you just stick with it. Be punctual, show up, don't quit, fulfill your duties, meet the expectations. Okay, these tasks might come out unexpectedly or out of the blue. You're Gemini, be flexible, be on your toes, and be able to handle them, and you will do just fine. And some of you Geminis who, depending on how erratic that mutable energy is, you might find comfort in Saturn actually demanding a slowdown, because Jupiter can really expand who you are in terms of that mutability. Saturn's influence can bring a sense of satisfaction in being like, oh, I have some routine work and some mundane tasks to kind of push against and rely on. And so that can bring a balanced approach to your life if you happen to be one of those Geminis who have had too much imbalance, let's say, during this, okay? In which it can bring you opportunities, Jupiter, which feel really good, but the stability of routine. And since this is affecting your personality and your identity with Jupiter in your house, you might discover that a lot of these opportunities are actually tied towards your career ambitions. So blending your natural sense of mutability and change and sociability with a career that wants that and supports that is absolutely key. But this won't be handed to you on a silver platter, Saturn. There's demands here. Sustained effort and patience, Saturn, is what's needed. And so the rewards of your hard work won't manifest immediately, but they'll come over an extended period. All right, so that's the key for you, Geminis. So be able to have the mindset now going into this that stability is the key, and you'll be able to achieve the dreams that you want there. Cancers, Jupiter in the 12th, while Saturn transits through Pisces in the 9th. So some of you might be thinking, do I go back to school? What is my vision for my life? What's my higher purpose? What is my dharma? What do I want to work on for the long term? What's my North Star? Okay. And education can be a big part of that, which is a very Jupiterian thing. And with Saturn in the 9th, there's an emphasis on reevaluating your beliefs and your perception in the world. What is my place in the world? The 9th house represents your broader perspective and your philosophical viewpoints. And so are we standing firm in our authority, Saturn, and our viewpoints and our foundational beliefs? Now, Jupiter in the 12th can be a protective force because the 12th house is known as the house of losses and disillusionment and self-undoing. So Jupiter there can protect you from those energies. And that's more of a behind-the-scenes energy, right? That's why it's called self-undoing. We can self-sabotage. Those are things we kind of do in our own shadows, right? So Jupiter can shine a light on that. So this can be a great time to get astrological readings or work with the therapist or do the psychedelics. I'm not giving that advice, but whatever it is that will help you dive into your subconscious can be a good time for that while Jupiter is there. Now, this period is particularly conducive for learning and higher education as it relates to spiritual things like meditative techniques, breathing techniques, pranayama. Maybe you're going to go see Wim Hof and learn how to, breathe in negative 0-degree water, Celsius or whatever. And so there are techniques that you can build that will actually help and protect the body and even help your sleep if you would like. So intellectual and spiritual growth, Cancers, it's a huge opportunity for that. And if you're really good in those topics, then this could be a time where you take up the mantle and teach others, right? And share others how to implement this knowledge. Jupiter rules publishing, so you might be writing, you might be on social media or preaching about these techniques or about your philosophies or just studying these things as well. And then we have Leo. Saturn's going to be transiting your 8th house while Jupiter moves into Gemini in your 11th house. So for you, a prominent theme might be taxes, debts, inheritances, marriage, divorce, partnerships. Saturn in the 8th can bring a spotlight to financial obligations like taxes. And dealing with, if there's any elderly relatives who might pass away or any wills or anything like that, to where maybe you even knew this and you were expecting income or their passing was unexpected. There might be issues related to delays with inheritances or just having to deal with those matters, power of attorney and wills and that type of stuff, okay? Another consideration could be loans, whether it's taking them, giving them, needing them. It's going to be very important that you look at these with a fine-tuned comb and you're very patient and you pay close attention to these deals because Saturn is there. So you want to be the one implementing delays as you read the paperwork, all right? And Saturn in the 8th can even bring concerns about mortality, whether it's yours or someone else's. It doesn't mean someone has to die, but it could just bring up the fears related to that. Now, with Jupiter in the 11th, your social network can play a vital role in your life. And that could be psychological assistance. Maybe you're the shoulder to lean on, to cry on. Maybe you're the one lending money to your social group. Or maybe you're a doula, a death doula or something for your social group. It could be where you're the one helping them out through challenging moments or they're helping you out through challenging moments. Despite the intense energy that Saturn's bringing to the 8th, Jupiter is balancing that out in the 11th. And it can bring opportunities in business partnerships as well. Okay. That can look like very exciting adventures or prospects or opportunities from your social group or larger networks. Okay. But there might be some logistical challenges with that square from the 8th. So you have to be careful, manage these agreements carefully. Don't go, oh, this is my friend, we don't need to sign anything. Be careful with that kind of thinking because overall this is a complex yet supportive blend of energy here. And so what you need to do, Leos, is just navigate these financial, psychological, and social dynamics with care, and Jupiter will help you out. Virgos. Saturn will transit through the 7th, while Jupiter will transit through the 10th. These are two angles of manifestation in the chart. So you guys will feel the square, particularly if you have planets in either of these angles that get impacted directly. So, big changes in your personal and professional life. The square between these two transits can manifest in a variety of ways. Some Virgos will be getting married. Congratulations. Some Virgos will be getting divorced. Congratulations. It's like that old Chinese saying goes, which I can't remember right now. But anyway, the square between these two transits can manifest as a change in status between partnerships and commitments made during this period. And so Saturn's presence in the seventh house emphasizes the importance of choosing the right partners, be they in business or personal life. The transit necessitates diligent consideration. Okay. So Saturn, remember, that's delays and that's seriousness. Take your time and be serious about the people in your life and the decisions that you make with them, and Jupiter will bless those decisions. Jupiter's transit throughout the 10th will bring you opportunities for career growth, okay? And public recognition is very likely with this. It's in the 10th. And so a lot of opportunities for expansion and success, especially if your midheaven's there, if you have planets there, with Jupiter in the 10th. You'll get a lot. The spotlight will be on you, Virgos, for what you're doing. However, and this is where we need to be careful, your personal relationships, even business partnerships, are they a constraint to that success or to that spotlight? Are they blocking what Jupiter wants to expand in the 10th house? This might be what you need to reflect on during September and at the end of August when this aspect occurs. So as Jupiter is opposing the ascendant sun or moon too, you guys might have an effect on your physical health and emotional well-being. So look out for that. This can create a sense of depression or melancholy in some of you. If you're feeling that, it's temporary, particularly if you're a Virgo rising and you have this strong sense of like self-criticism. If you feel held back by your sense of achieving potential, lean on Jupiter in the 10th. Do the work of overcoming these internal restrictions, because if these are internal limiting beliefs, lean on Jupiter and what the opportunities are telling you, what people are asking for you, the offers that people are giving you. Allow the truth of what those opportunities are telling you to give you some factual information to say, hey, maybe I can work on some of these internal limiting beliefs and potentially pursue some of these opportunities. Libra. For Libras, Saturn will be transiting the 6th house in Pisces while Jupiter will be in the 9th house of Gemini. So this points to increased sense of responsibility in your daily life, daily routines. This can affect your pets, your coworkers, if you're a landlord, potentially your tenants or anyone who reports to you or works with you. Okay. This might have you taking on more than you prefer. Be careful with the physical body as well, right? This workload, which for most Libras, you aren't built for a life of work. Particularly Libra risings, particularly your physical body is not built for a life of heavy work. So be careful with some of this in the sense that Saturn's presence in the 6th house can make work feel more burdensome and restrictive, leading to a feeling of really being overburdened and wanting to escape that feeling. Now with Jupiter in the 9th, there's the possibility of travel related to work, which could require a short-term relocation or a lot of travel for you guys. Saturn in Pisces can also provide the discipline needed to improve any health habits or routines. So some of you Libras, again, now the Libra risings in particular might have this issue as it relates to work. Don't feel like because you have a Libra placement, I'm saying you don't work hard or that you don't like work. That's incorrect. Your chart is more complex than that. However, some of you guys might feel like if you've struggled with work, that Saturn's influence in your 6th house will actually give you the strength and stability to actually be more disciplined, to improve your health habits or your daily routines, and give you the push to be more regimented with either your diet or your exercise or attacking a health issue you might have, or even just with work in general. And then Jupiter is supporting this. This can even help establish boundaries and discipline in your work routines that help you be more productive than you might normally be. And so, with the responsibilities, though, what Jupiter will bring you on the lighter side is encouragement to embrace opportunities for adventure and for learning new skills, and even sharing your knowledge and some of what you know. Libra is an air sign, right? This is about communication. You have things to communicate, and you want to initiate communication as a cardinal air sign. So Jupiter is encouraging that, because the hard work you put into now can lead to career expansions when Saturn moves into the 7th house. And a lot of Libras have been working really hard on partnerships that have been frustrating, right? And so some of what you might experience is the hard work that you've been putting in. And if you put it in now, that can lead to career expansion when Saturn moves into the 7th house and Jupiter into the 10th house next year in June of 2025. That can bring you new partnerships, contracts, and public recognition. So for Scorpios, you guys have Saturn transiting the 5th house of passions, hobbies, romance, children, and creativity, while Jupiter is transiting Gemini in the 8th house of debts, inheritances, mortgages, marriage, connections, bonds, and energetic ties to others. This dynamic presents an opportunity for you Scorpios to take a passion project or something you're very, very excited about. Now, with me, I see that as rooted in the joyful energy of your 5th house, and you're able to make that real and tangible, Saturn. However, you can secure a loan or financial support from a partner even with this through Jupiter's influence in the 8th if you need that income or support from a partner to make what your passion project is stable. Saturn through the 5th often talks about making your hobbies more concrete and business oriented. Saturn in the 5th can also make you feel like you're not having as much fun. Maybe there's a bit of a separation or delay as it comes to spending time with your children or on your hobbies. So there's different ways it can manifest. You could be making these things more serious. Your relationship with your romantic partner or children or hobbies or creative projects could become more serious. You could experience delays, or you could even experience some separations in some of these areas. Jupiter's presence will imply an expansion of financial resources, though, from outside sources as it relates to these things, though. So I'm seeing this, though, as not as substantial or as grand as anticipated because there is a square from Saturn. And what Saturn's influence is telling us is that while there is potential for this gain, it's going to require effort and hard work. So if you have hobbies, projects, relationships that you're excited about or passionate about, by all means, move forward. But think about how you can stabilize this and what help you might need and what needs to be contributed to you and what you need to contribute to others to really strengthen your passions for the long term. Sagittarius. Saturn is currently transiting the 4th house of home, vehicles, and your foundations and unconscious needs, family, property, and real estate, while Jupiter is in the 7th house of relationships, creating a square. So, are we focusing on solidifying the home, or are we focusing on relationships? There's a focus on evaluating what you come home to, or even what you're driving, or what your foundations are, your family. There's a need to focus on some of these things because of Saturn's presence in the 4th. There's a seriousness there, and there could even be delays there. Whether it's in rebuilding a home, renovating a home, purchasing a home, or an elderly parent entering the home or visiting the home. It could be in-laws, it could be your own parents, or authority figures. Maybe there's an increase in taxes. Maybe the government or the local authorities are saying you need to remove this tree from your property, or there's a water leak because your 4th house is in Pisces, so there could be water issues related to the home with Saturn. There's a need to focus on the home. There's going to be some delays there. And there's questions of how serious you are on what you're working on as it relates to the home. And taking on responsibilities there that can affect partnerships in the 7th, Jupiter, where growth and opportunities are for you. Jupiter can bring you opportunities through one-on-one connections, partnerships, or other people. It might not seem that way or feel that way because Jupiter is opposing the ascendant, which is you. But Jupiter is your ruling planet, which is also you. So are we going against yourself by ignoring certain connections or beating or damaging your own opportunities in relationships or partnerships that you are in? Or are you ignoring opportunities that are coming in as well? So these opportunities that are coming your way are with Jupiter and Gemini will come through either people you care about, people you know, or new important relationships. And despite the constraints that come through by Saturn, these limitations might be necessary because you need to manage these responsibilities at home. It is a place of foundations. Are the foundations solid enough to support the new relationships coming in? Do these new relationships support your foundations? And that's what Saturn and Jupiter working together are going to be asking you. Capricorn. So, Capricorn, for you guys, we have the Saturn-Jupiter square on August 19th. And that is taking place with Saturn transiting Pisces in your 3rd house and Jupiter transiting your 6th house of health, work, daily routines, pets, subordinates, and the day-to-day of life. This combination will bring a focus to your daily life and your interactions. What are you working on? And are you experiencing opportunities or expansion from your pets? Are you getting a new pet from your employees? Are you hiring a new intern? Or are you making more money or more gains in your business as a result of the people you hired? Okay. Now, focus on your daily life and interactions. Is your daily commute too long? This is the 3rd house influence with Saturn. Do you need to put an end? Saturn brings endings to your daily commute. Are you having issues with your vehicle? Is it time to upgrade that? Is it time to think of a new way to get to work? Are we working somewhere new? Are we putting an end to the routine of travel that we've been doing? And do we need to shift that? Okay. So what about our communication with our siblings, with our brothers or sisters, or people in our local environment or our coworkers? Is that ending too? Are we moving? Are we changing? Are we shifting areas locally? Are we going from one local neighborhood to another? Reflect on how you're communicating and dealing with your local environment, how you're moving around in that space, and who you're communicating with, as Jupiter wants to expand your daily routines and make them better. So if you haven't been happy with how you've been traveling or who you've been working with, Jupiter wants to change that. Jupiter wants to bring you opportunities in your daily work experience. It could seem smaller, like smaller opportunities, and the challenge will be for you, and how do you capitalize on this? Because it might feel like you don't have the connections, 3rd house, or like you might want to speak on 3rd house on these matters. Maybe you feel like you don't have the courage or confidence to ask for the promotion or to make the job shift or to voice your issues with your siblings. Jupiter's influence is asking you to shift that so that your daily experience of life within the 24-hour blocks of life that you have are experienced with much better ease, joy, and prosperity. Capricorn, that's you. Aquarius. Saturn is currently transiting the 2nd house of money and resources in Pisces. The last time I spoke about this is good because you've just had Neptune there. And Neptune can make things foggy and uncontrollable and confusing. So hopefully you haven't been too afraid of Saturn in the 2nd house, and this has brought a sense of stability and understanding the fogginess that Neptune has brought to your finances. Jupiter is squaring the 2nd house of where Saturn is located, and Jupiter is in the 5th in your house of romance, hobbies, interests, and children, the things that bring you joy. So this square presents opportunities for you to connect deeply with something you're passionate about, but the financial concerns, Saturn in the 2nd house, might be holding you back. So are we hesitating to spend money, or do we need to work harder to raise the necessary funds for our 5th house joy? This is your life. If your 5th house joy, if you're meant to experience it, then what work do you need to put in to be able to fund that? It's essential for Aquarius to be financially responsible. With Saturn in the second, you need to be diligent in managing your finances. So, are we looking at the accounts, right? It's like, are we keeping score? How are you going to know you're winning the game if you're not looking at the points? Are you looking at your accounts, or are you afraid to look at them? Do you have some limiting beliefs around money? Right, those are things you might want to address. Additionally, with Jupiter in the fifth house, some of you Aquarians might experience growth in the family, right? That could be the arrival of a new family member, a new child, perhaps, which could come with some financial duties as well, right? Or again, this could be just a new creative project, adventure, travel, or idea that needs funded, which will require planning. All right. And we have, last but never least, Pisces. Saturn has been transiting you for 1.5 years now. Have you been enjoying it? I hope so. As it transits your sign, Jupiter has now entered the picture, which is now going to be squaring your sign and Saturn. Now, despite this square, Jupiter typically brings positive influences. So if you've been having a hard time with Saturn in the first house, this square might give you a change of pace, believe it or not. Jupiter will be in your fourth house, which governs home, family, property, and real estate. So this is where the expansion and blessing will occur. This transit can bring beauty and optimism and opportunities for you through home life and family connections. It's not a guarantee. Some of you Pisceans have very interesting fourth houses, but this is where this is where Jupiter wants to bring blessing. During this period, some of you Pisceans might assume a more authoritative role in your households, actually, right? So Saturn is with you in the first house. So you can be the one acting as the authority figure here, okay? And you might do that by not being overbearing because you're a Pisces, and because Jupiter is in the fourth house of home, you're doing it with wisdom. You're doing it with benevolence. You're doing it to grow and expand what is there. You're doing it to benefit everyone in the home or everyone related to your foundations. This could bring in a new vehicle as well, or a new home or new property as well, right? Or building onto your property, or even relocating or expanding the property that you have, right? So it's very likely that you're going to take on more of that authority role and be more grounded in the physical reality, which is not the most Piscean thing. Pisces is more related to the mental sphere, the Neptunian side of life, in which we're talking about the subconscious or the dream world or other chakras or even other dimensions. So Saturn is going to bring you more down to earth, and it's with you. So you're doing this, Pisces, for a change. And so some of you might find Saturn's energy actually quite refreshing. And with Jupiter's influence in the fourth, you can even use this for yourself to shore up and tighten up your own foundations in your own personal life, so that as this transit dissipates, you can go back to more of that ethereal Neptunian side of life with more of that balance built from what Jupiter has given you during that transit. So again, that's August 19th. It's not all doom and gloom. Yes, there are some aspects happening to the United States due to the eclipse and the progress chart, which if you don't know astrology, you would have no idea. But some very interesting things could come to the surface. Yes, there is civil unrest. Yes, there is an election cycle. So we will see. But hopefully with the breakdown of the 12 signs, you know what to focus on. You're not going to be worried too much about things you can't control. You're going to be using the energy to your benefit so that your own growth and expansion can occur. All right, you guys. That's
Thank
enough for
you
today.
so much, Sama. This was very in-depth, very insightful. I was taking notes as well, and my husband would come and listen to his signs. Thank you, everyone, for joining us as well. And if anyone would like to contact Sama for a personal reading, his readings are very expensive, more expensive than normal. But this is financial astrology. It's not for someone who is wondering what to do with his $500 savings.
Yes. Yeah.
It's for someone who has a business, who has financial stability in life already and want to preserve it, increase it, So that's why this prices, and it's for different kind of audience basically as well. But thank you so much for giving, even for the normal people like us, a breakdown of which areas to focus, like you said, so we don't freak out when we can't control the external situation, and focus on our on our own cup, whatever it's the
Absolutely.
expression. Thank you so much, Sam.
And I will
Again,
say too, you guys, for those who want to know more about my views on financial astrology and the markets, again, I have a newsletter you can join where I give free information on that. And I have a report that I put out for my predictions of the entire year. And I can say this, and people probably go in the comment section and agree. It has pretty much panned out that way. It's $200. You don't have to meet with me to discuss those things, okay? The year is broken down, and I even talk about ETFs, stocks. This was made in December. NVIDIA was on there, right? Which you guys have all heard about. So there's people who have benefited from these things to where you don't have to spend that price to meet with me one-on-one to talk about things that I've already laid out for you guys. So that report exists so that you don't have to book that, right?
my husband took advice of your report and did the NVIDIA thing, and he
Well,
said,
there you go.
everything crashes now. I would bet everything on NVIDIA after that.
Well, there you go. I mean, tech stocks, you guys get the astrology now, hopefully, right? Uranus, Jupiter,
Yeah.
all these air related technological, it's going to be volatile, right? So when you guys see that you're in profit, make reasonable decisions. Do not think that things will stay up forever because we are in a time now where things are very quickly shifting. So just be careful. Please manage your risks accordingly. None of this is financial advice. Be well. One love to you all. Take care.
I love how you say it. The people who recommend supplements say none of this is medical advice.
Yeah.
Clever. You have to insure yourself. Thank you so much, Sama. And again, if anyone would like to contact Sama, I'll put link below, and also to the report and the other details in the description. And we'll see you again for the next quarter. That's how it's called, quarter.
Yeah, I'll probably come back and talk about September and all that other kind of stuff.
Oh,
So, yeah,
there is stuff happening there. Wonderful. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
you too.